Hello, everybody. How are you doing? I hope you can hear me all right. I've been twiddling with things. I've changed it a little bit, changed my setup around a little bit, which that's how you keep things interesting when you do audio production or video production or any kind of production or anything with computers, really. But yeah, I hope it's all gonna work well. If it doesn't, you will be able to see the disaster firsthand. Hello, Real Funky Duck. Nice to see you. Thanks for being there. Yes, another coup. No, it's actually not a coup. Well, I'm going to talk about that. I am here. We are here. I'm here to record the latest episode of my privacy politics podcast, which is the first one for 2021. Which will be fun. I've changed some things, as I said. It should be fun. As always, a quick disclaimer: I'm recording a podcast. I'm doing it live, but it'll go live to tape, and then later on it'll go out as a podcast. So I will not engage with Twitch chat as I would if I'm streaming, playing a video game or something, or if I was chatting with you. Because obviously that would be dumb for the people who just download the podcast. I will be having an eye on chat, and if you have any comments or any corrections, I'm totally up for having some live corrections. Can't really get into in-depth discussions, but I'll keep an eye on it, and we can always chat afterwards. I think I'm gonna do one of these again today, where I since I'm so late. Sorry for being late, by the way. It's been when you try to do something and then you do it and then 3 other things break and then you have to fix them. That was the website today and kind of my show notes and everything. It's just been, it's being one of these weeks. But anyway, I'm planning, because I'm so late, I'm just going to record the podcast. You will be able to see my screen, by the way, so you can see how this sausage is made. And will be doing that, and then afterwards I'll just keep the stream on while I edit the podcast, which isn't much, and then do the show notes and basically publish it. Nes Snes R, thanks for the follow. Definitely good choice of username there. Good choice of video game consoles. I grew up with the SNES, really. I mean, I'm old enough that the NES was around, but at that time we didn't have video games at my house. I did play it at friends' place, by the way, but like my first console was the Game Boy, and then I later got a SNES. Why is my nose itchy? My nose is itchy. And then I got a Nintendo 64, and that was that was I grew up with that, really. I can hardly remember the SNES. I know I had a SNES and I played it a lot. But like the game that, like, from the console point of view made a huge impact on me was like the Mario 64, like the first 3D Mario. That was just like, wow. That and GoldenEye. I had GoldenEye. I think that was later. Yeah, I think that was actually put on the index in Germany, so you couldn't buy it anymore. But I bought it before. I actually didn't know. I never knew it was on the index. I tried to sell it on eBay. I sold a lot. I still have that, but I sold all my old consoles and shit. That was a mistake. But when I put it on eBay was put up a message like, you can't sell this. It's on the index, and I was like, is it? When did that happen? And it turns out they put it on index like 2 weeks after my parents bought it for me or something. Still have no idea why. I mean, if you look at that game, that is like, I mean, yes, you shoot people, but like the people are basically 3 polygons. And like if there's any blood, it's like just like red dots, basically. I never understood that. But let's do this. As you can, maybe we'll be able to see. Wait, I got a camera for that. I have a new setup here where I'm gonna play some audio stuff from my iPad. That's the new thing that I hope works. And we also got some fancy music. We're gonna have some music at the end of the show, because I've subscribed to Epidemic Sound, which is like streaming It's music licensed for streaming and podcasts. I was on the fence of doing it just for the stream because it isn't cheap, obviously. Well, it's actually cheap for what it is, I think. But, freelance, I don't have much money. But then I noticed that you can also, they said you can also use, it's also licensed for podcasts. I was like, okay, that's put me over the edge. Okay, let's do the pre-checks here. Let's do a test recording. Yep, that looks like my voice is working. My voice is working. Let's play some music. Looks good. What I need to do is I need to check that I haven't changed this. Where is it? I need to check that I am still, playing this in mono. Okay, so that's good. And then finally,
yeah, it's a great time to be a podcaster.
Well, it looks like that works. It looks like everything's working basically. Okay, for now, we'll see. Looking good. Which means we can delete all of this crap. And this is where it gets dicey. Because as you might know, if you subscribe to the podcast, I haven't done one since like the beginning of December. So it's like over a month. And if you know me from other projects previously, then you know that basically whenever I don't do a podcast for when I do a weekly podcast like this, like LO, it's like a week is bad. With the other podcasts, okay, I did every 2 weeks, but like 3 weeks this is when it gets dicey, and then I forget everything, like my intro and everything I do. So this is gonna be might be a bit rough today, but live to tape. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. Okay, I'm rambling enough. I think I'm just nervous that this whole thing will explode on me. So let's do this. Also, new setup. Like, don't remember how anything works. Plus new setup. That's always a recipe for disaster. But still, I'm gonna do this. Let's start recording here. Ooh, wow! What the hell? Ooh. My mouse wheel is doing weird things again. Okay, that looks more usable. Right. Hello everybody, you're listening to The Private Citizen, episode 51 for Wednesday the 13th of January 2021. The Twitter coup. Hello everybody, my name is Fab and I'm coming to you live from the city of Düsseldorf on the Rhine in Germany with another episode of The Private Citizen, the first one for the new year. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you all slid into the year well, as we say in Germany. And thanks for being here, and thanks for listening to this. New year. Show is almost a year old now. I thought I'll make some changes. But hopefully there are changes that, you'll like. That is the plan. Oh, my name's Fab, by the way. Have I said that? Can't remember. I've been doing I haven't been podcasting for about a month. It's all out of my brain. My name's Fab. I'm your host. And let's. Oh, before we start, of course, I did I did change the website a little bit. As I said I was going to do, I worked over it over this and over the holidays in December a little bit. Didn't really get it finished. I was really busy. This is also why I'm starting the show basically a week late. I had said, I think, what was it, the 5th was originally, no, the 6th. Okay, that was the plan to do that, and I didn't quite make that. But now I'm here, and now the website is, well, it's not that new. I changed it a little bit. The album art is changed, and basically I want to make it a bit more clear. This is like a politics news show. We're still going to do privacy. That is my goal here. And privacy, I've talked about this for the people that haven't listened to many episodes yet, or maybe maybe this is your first episode. You haven't heard this, but other people will. For me, privacy is very much a political thing. I don't like this kind of tech news angle of just looking at privacy in isolation. I mean, there's basically two angles to privacy podcasts. There's there's the like tech nerd angle, and then there's some people who are looking at it from that angle and from like a legal perspective. But I don't feel there's enough like holistic. I like to look at the tech angle. I like to look at policy. I like to look at legal stuff, and I like to look at like the actual politics, because I feel like we can talk about how bad something, I don't know, some law or some website or some web service or some company is all day long. If we don't talk about how that happened and what laws are being changed and how we can maybe fix it, then then this is then that's basically useless. So this is a holistic approach, but it also means a lot of politics. And if you've been with me for the first 50 episodes throughout 2020, you have seen how the focus of the podcast changed. Obviously, the pandemic, so I like to call it the panicdemic, has impacted the show a lot. Like, it's impacted everything, and it's changed. It's changed a lot of things. And the show has grown with it. I think it is fortuitous that I started this show. When I started the show, I obviously didn't know that would be a topic, but I started it at exactly the right time, I feel, because, one of the things this pandemic has brought with it is a huge assault on our individual rights as citizens and on our privacy. And I think this is a very important topic that needs covering. And with that little disclaimer out of the way, I hope the new website makes it a bit clearer. I hope you like it. I hope it's usable to you. As always, I always say this, but, please contact me with everything. If you listen to the show and you have a different opinion, if you want to correct something I've said, if you don't like the website, if you want changes on the website, I'm not going to promise anything, but you can write me. And there's now a new handy contact link right in the header of the website. And the website is at privatecitizen.press, by the way. So, and with that, let's get into it. Let's get into the thing that happened last week, which would have completely collided. I think I would have probably released an episode last week, and then the whole Capitol thing happened. So it's good that I didn't. So we can now talk about what was breaking news then, with a little bit of distance. But yes, we're talking about breaking news. And those breaking news, of course, you must have realized what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the march on the Capitol in Washington, D.C., which was a relatively spontaneous event. I think people didn't really... I mean, there were protests were planned and stuff beforehand, but, the whole thing unfolded to everybody's surprise, I think, especially surprise of the media. You could see that, like, on live TV. People were like, what the hell's going on? So there were demonstrations. There was Donald Trump gave a speech in the morning, before noon, I think, in which he people have said he called for people to basically march and burn on the Capitol. I don't think that is true. He did call for people to march, to Capitol Hill, and it's very debatable what his intentions were. I believe, not because I like Trump, but just from my sense of the man, that he did want to incite some, pressure, I would say. I didn't think he thought people would storm the Capitol, which, what happened was totally not good for him, I feel. He might have wanted it. He might have not foreseen how it was going to go down. But, that's not a discussion I want to have here. It's not the focus of this episode. I'm talking about this, of course, because of the reaction that the social media companies had to it afterwards. But at first, we need to establish what the hell happened, and to understand why the reaction happened as it did. And so this was, of course, there were protests, and so there were Trump supporters, clearly Trump supporters, wearing Trump hats and waving flags, marched on the Capitol building. And this eventually led to rioters forcing their way into the Capitol and storming the joint session of Congress that was going on to count the electoral votes and basically formalized Joe Biden as next president of the United States. Now, Trump thinks the election was rigged. We talked about on the show last year about the election beforehand. I talked with Mike, my good friend Mike Mullen Jensen. I had him on the show. He has a opposing viewpoint to me, which leads to nice and very long discussions. And we discussed about the election, the possibility of it having been manipulated before and after the election. I feel that whatever Trump really believes, I think what he says is ridiculous. I don't think the election was. I think it was manipulated in places, which basically, as we are now learning. I mean, I kind of knew this. Every U.S. election in the last 2 decades, there's shady shit going on. I don't think it changed the outcome. I think Biden would have won. I thought Trump would win. Obviously, that's what I said. I still maintain, that was what I thought, but obviously Biden won. He didn't win by the landslide that everybody else expected. So I think that makes it especially likely that this result wasn't changed in any way. Then there might have been voter fraud, there might have been election fraud going on, weird things, especially with the voting machines. I firmly believe, from what I've seen, that there was shady shit going on. But I think the second episode of this podcast ever was on. God, I know I'm gonna have to look that up. What episode was that? We have an all episode list, which is second episode. Electronic voting is a threat to democracy. 12th of February, 2020. That's when I basically said, this is horrible. Everybody should stop using electronic voting machines. So I know I'm pretty sure there was shit going on there, but I don't think it changed the result. Trump obviously thinks so, or he thinks he has to say so. I completely don't agree with that. But the issue I have is that, he gave okay, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the speech he gave, I think, later when we're going to talk about social network response to this. But, basically this has happened. Now, it's been called a coup. And, I'm recording this show as usual live on Twitch. And people have, I put coup in the title of the episode. And people already mentioned it because it draws people's attention. I found it extremely ridiculous that people called this a coup. Because, I study politics, and a coup, by definition, coup is being short for coup d'etat, which is French. In German we say Staatsstreich, or Putsch, is a overthrow of a government. So a coup, by definition, has to be undertaken by somebody who's not in power. So Trump can't have a coup while he's president. Now, obviously people think, he's not really president anymore. And, obviously he's not going to be president much longer. That is true. But as long as he is president, he can't have a coup. Quickly quoting here from Wikipedia, a coup or coup d'etat, literally blow of the state, also known simply as an overthrow, takeover, or putsch, is the removal of an existing government from power, usually through violent means. So, savvy, get it? Existing government, removing of an existing government from power. Existing government. Usually through violent means. Typically, it is an illegal, unconstitutional seizure of power by a political faction, the military, or a dictator. Usually, it's a political faction with the military. Usually you need the military support, especially in countries that have a dominant military, to perpetrate a coup. Now, what this actually was, I think the term insurrection is a good term, but I think this was actually closer to, if you want to, go political science about this, if colleagues in the media want to have a big name for it, it was closer to a revolution, because a revolution is usually from up below, right, from the people. So, as Wikipedia says, in political science, a revolution, Latin revolutio, a turnaround, is a fundamental and relatively sudden change in political power and political organization, which occurs when the population revolts against the government, typically due to perceived oppression, political, social, economic, or political incompetence. I think this definition is actually wrong, because this basically supposes that the actual change has to have take place. And there's the revolution in Germany in large parts. After the French Revolution, there were lots of revolutions in the German states. Lots of them failed. We still call that the Deutsche Revolution. And it's so I don't think it has to actually succeed. And then they go on Wikipedia, in book 5 of the Politics, the ancient Greek, politics being the writings or the book, the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, 384 to 322 BC, described two types of political revolution. One, a complete change from one constitution to another, or two, modification of an existing revolution. And I kind of feel like that this is, I don't know what these protesters wanted. Or rioters, whatever, insurrectionists, whatever you want to call these people, idiots, madman, weird people in Viking costumes. I can't presume, but I feel like that's what they wanted to change an existing constitution, i.e., the way the election works, I guess, because the election was fake. So I think this was a very small and very shitty revolution. It also had all the hallmarks of people just gathering and and moving marching from one place to another and then starting to burn down things or destroy things or break in things. That's how the French Revolution started. Bastille Day. Usually you get the weapons first. That's why they stormed the Bastille. But I guess in the US you don't need that. And it's kind of weird that these people, I don't know, they weren't carrying weapons, I guess because it's DC, right? And you can't. Handguns or rifles. The Viking guy had a fucking spear. So I think it was a very incompetent revolution. I feel like this is sad, but I feel at this point I have to point out and say and publicly state that obviously I don't agree with what these people did, and I find it appalling and abhorrent. I think it's a sign of the times that I actually have to say this. But I think every sane person, especially on a podcast that is concerned with civil liberties, should understand that, when you go and actually attack and insult your fundamental institutions of your democracy, that is a very dangerous thing. And I object to the liberal left calling everybody these days Nazis. But I think in this case, there is a Nazi parallel to be drawn, as in a actual NSDAP, National Socialist Party parallel. They had like these thugs, and they would go and have rallies and attack institutions and stuff like that. So I feel like that is actually a valid conclusion that can be drawn here, except these people, I mean, you can see a lot about what happened there. If you're really interested, C-SPAN, which is this television channel in the US that shows everything that happens in Senate or in the House, and they have cameras everywhere, and they had cameras on during this whole thing. There's like hours of footage of the people outside. You can see how many people there were, what they were doing. You can see that a lot of them weren't violent and weren't taking part in violent stuff. And then you can see a subset of those people forcing their way into the Capitol building, and then you see what's going on inside. There's cameras inside. You can look this all up, which is part of the ethos of this podcast, enabling you to. I try to reinforce in the listeners and producers of the show the understanding that you should think for yourself and look these things up, and that it isn't hard. And so you can look, and I've spent actually quite some time looking at this footage and looking at what kind of people those people seem to be. But anyway, obviously I completely disagree with what they did, what they tried to do. I just find the characterization in mainstream media was sorely lacking. You can't. How can you, like, people on CNN and and PBS and whatever, like these people, CNBC, I watch some of that coverage, and these people are idiots. I don't know. There's no other way to say this. How can you be a journalist for a major TV network and not know what a coup is? And when you see people that are supporting the sitting president and are waving flags of the country and the government, the institution that is currently in office, that is not a coup, right? And then you call them like neo-Nazis, and you're like, no. It's just that's not how it works. These were madmen, right? This is people with really weird stuff. Not only the Viking guy, like people with Kakistan flags, like Paper the Frog masks, and weird, I don't know, millennials, I guess. And then they did like weird shit, like that one guy who's like stormed Pelosi's office and was like just sitting on the desk and having photographs taken. You're like, they're gonna arrest you, right? You know this, right? Your face is on national news. Also, why are you not filing? Why are you on Pelosi's desk? Why are you not going through the fucking files? There's gotta be amazing stuff in there. But I'm not condoning what these people did. But it's just, like, even as far as like illegal shit goes, it's completely not understandable. It was just like completely weird. Now, let's get over to the thing we actually want to talk about. So we've established what's going on. We established that I'm not a fan of what happened there. Let's talk about how the social media companies and Silicon Valley basically responded to this. Which is, the interesting thing, because this is where it starts to intersect privacy. So this was going on. While this was going on, Twitter, who for a long time has fought against having to ban Trump, people have been calling for that for ages. I always thought it was a stupid idea. But they made Trump delete a number of tweets, and then later suspended his account for 12 hours. And then later completely deleted his account, which you must have known, which is major news. Interestingly, Twitter said they deleted it, took these measures because tweets that Trump posted were calling or inciting or promoting violence. And I cannot find where this happened. And you can read that everywhere. New York Times, Washington Post, it was on TV, everywhere. The Verge. Everybody just took this narrative and ran with it. Now, I can't understand that, because it took me, so especially when this was going on, Trump recorded, or like his team recorded, a video message and posted it on Twitter. And that's one of the tweets that have been deleted. And people are saying, journalists are saying he incited further violence. Now, it took me less than a minute to find this video. I mean, the next day, middle of next day, when it was long deleted, his account was locked. It took me less than a minute to find it. And it's about a minute long. This whole speech is about a minute long. And I cannot understand how people, okay, let's put it this way. Anything somebody says, this is basic communication theory. Basically anything somebody says, you can interpret in various ways, right? So I can now say, my God, don't fucking go to the Reichstag and start protesting, right? And I could mean that and be as earnest as the day is long, right? And people can still understand that as Fab is being sarcastic, and he has just called, to storm the Reichstag, which anybody who knew me know that I would never do that. Like that, this is as far from what I would say ever. But it can be understood that way. People who don't like me might construe it that way. And I think this happened here with Trump, which I understand if it's just like some guy on the internet doing that. But if you're a journalist, I'm not saying take everything the politician says at face value, but the first step, like even if we're, this is new age journalism, we're doing away with everything has to be objective and all of that. Everybody's biased, which is something I subscribe to. But that is not an excuse to first report what has actually happened. The first thing you need to do is to report what he actually said. And then you can say, I think he meant the complete opposite, and explain why. But the first thing you need to do is you need to report what he said. And that's what people didn't do. So I'm going to play for you this speech, or this video, the audio of the video, because it's a minute long, right? And we can just listen to it, and you listen to it. And what I want you to do is, listen to it and, form your own opinion. If you heard it before, I apologize. But do it again. Listen to it. Pay attention, and try to divorce yourself. If you hate Trump or if you don't like him, try to divorce yourself from your animosity of him, and just pretend you're a journalist and you're researching this, or you whatever. You're trying to get to the truth here, right? The first thing you need to do is just listen to what he actually said. So, shall we have a try? Let's have a try. So this is what Trump posted to Twitter in a video message.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home, and go home in peace.
So, not looking at what he said about the election, which I think is bullshit, but it's still an opinion. I think that is saying that is within his rights. That is his opinion. It's freedom of speech. He can say that as the president of the US, just as any other man. Leaving that aside. He literally said, go home. Go home in peace. He did say, respect law and order, which is, I think, he sees himself as the law and order president. I think that's genuine. I mean, you can say that was sarcastic and he was doing like reverse psychology or signaling or dog whistling or whatever it's called. The exact opposite. And that is a valid opinion you can have. But if you're a journalist and you're reporting on this, you first have to report on what he actually said. I mean, you can do, as the New York Times did, point out that he praised the people. I think that was actually him in a really ham-fisted way, trying psychology and trying to tell this, oh, I like you, but please go home now. You're kind of hurting my cause here. What you're doing is not helping me. I think that's what he actually, that was he was thinking, but we don't know. So I have no idea why journalists don't do that. I mean, that's a minute, right? Journalists, it took me 2 minutes. A minute of finding the video and a minute of listening to it. That's all the research you need to do to have that down. Even in a newsroom where your editor's shouting at your neck, you can do that. I don't understand why they don't do that. You have to point that out. You have to point out that Twitter made him delete this video, which on the face of it, I take it as a try to calm people down. They made him delete this video and then said it incited violence. How that speech can be construed as inciting violence, I have no idea. On the Discord, we have a live opinion here from Discord. Real Funky Duck says they waved Confederate flags more than US ones. I was talking about how they were waving US flags. I can't. That's not what I saw. I watched quite a few hours of footage on C-SPAN. There were Confederate flags there. There were a lot more US flags. All the photos on all the headlines in all the newspapers all have US flags. They're very prominent. So it's not what I saw. Also, I mean, this is the US. It's not Germany. You're free to wave a Confederate flag. We can have a discussion if that's bad or not. I mean, there would have been free to wave a Nazi flag around. Obviously, as a German, I don't think we have to have a discussion to understand what I think about that, which, that would be illegal in Germany. But, I don't think that. It's just not, it's not what I saw. But, we can differ on that. Now, interestingly, so I didn't find any tweets there on the days before of Trump inciting violence. It is true that he gave a speech in the morning where he said, let's walk to the Capitol. And I agree with people that could be construed as let's attack the Capitol. I don't think that was the intention, but fair enough. But that wasn't posted on Twitter. That's a funny thing. That wasn't even posted on Twitter. It is interesting. So Green Turtle, this is the upside of this recording this live. We can actually have a discourse with some of the people listening. Green Turtle 69 says, so him sticking to the stolen election was inciting. I don't understand. That is not a valid argument. I mean, you can make that argument, but that's not inciting to violence. Saying that the election was stolen, that's it was a conspiracy theory or at best, or it's an opinion. It's a controversial opinion. It's probably wrong. Well, it is wrong. He's not been able to prove that in court. That is not inciting to violence. Saying move to Washington, burn down the Capitol, that's inciting violence. But I mean, I did a whole episode on this. I knew this would come up at some point. This is why I did that episode. Oh God, now I have to look that up. Which episode was that? Relatively recent, I think. Yeah, episode 46 in November, Fighting Hate Speech versus Fighting Free Speech, where I discussed that, where I discussed exactly this problem. This is the hate speech problem. This is hate isn't defined. Inciting violence isn't defined. We have quite strict laws against inciting violence against, in Germany now, and it is a very interesting discussion when these things get actually when there's lawsuits about this, and there's very very esoteric, I would even say, discussions that I'm having had between like lawyers and and judges having very different interpretations of what violence or incitement to violence actually is. So, but yeah, let's leave it there. I just feel that wasn't justified. I think Twitter was looking for an excuse to do this for a long time. That's what I think. Other world leaders have predictably condemned what Twitter did. I mean, in the vanguard of that was German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who has criticized Twitter. So I'm quoting here from what is this again? From the Financial Times. Angela Merkel, German Chancellor, has sharply criticized Twitter's decision to ban US President Donald Trump, calling it a, quote, problematic, unquote, breach of the, quote, fundamental right to free speech, end quote. Merkel said through her spokesman that the US government should follow Germany's lead in adopting laws that restrict online incitement rather than leaving it up to platforms such as Twitter and Facebook to make up their own rules. Now, as you know from that episode I just mentioned, I don't agree with that sentiment that, that we should have laws, but, I don't agree with the laws they are making. But I completely agree with Merkel, and I don't say this lightly. I have, she's been in power, 18 years now? I don't know. I've never voted for her. I don't like her. I've never said this. I very, very seldomly said this. I agree with Merkel on this. This is, when we're talking insurrection and, what is incitement to violence and what is a threat to democracy, it is not the place of a public company in the case of Twitter, but let's call it a company, a private concern, a private company to decide this kind of thing. And yes, I know there's the argument. There's two arguments that whenever I said this get thrown at me. First is it's a private company. They can do on their platform whatever they want, and the second is it wasn't the POTUS account. It was his personal account. Now let's attack the second one first because that's easy. That's bullshit. Courts all over the world have ruled very clearly that if you have a private account and you put not the views of my employer, and then you say things that sound like you say that as an employer of the company, then if they fire you, they're well within their right. Putting a disclaimer there that this is my personal opinion, that doesn't hold up in court. Just ask Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk has a personal account on Twitter. He got severely penalized by the SEC. Didn't he get dropped off the board of Tesla because of private things he posted in his free time on his private Twitter account about his company? So no. And especially the position of President of the United States cannot be separated from the person. And the people calling for this, who have called for this for 4 years now, have never separated this. I read in news stories that they just banned his personal account, not the POTUS account, right? And that is different because it's not the office, blah blah blah. These same outlets for 4 years have been quoting his personal account as the president of the United States just said this on Twitter. And then the links are now all broken because they all just the fucking embedded tweets and the account's now gone. So no, this does not fly. The other argument is actually much more interesting. Has a private company the right to do what they want on their platform? Generally, of course, yes. I mean, you're not free. You're free to not use Twitter. I completely agree with that. But that is an oversimplification. Because if people say that, they don't understand how important Twitter has become. Twitter is the number one news source for everybody. I mean, for everybody. People are not on Twitter. People are too old. People are watch TV. Where do you think the journalists get their news from? Where do you think they get, they get everything off Twitter? They might not quote Twitter. It's a well-known thing where it's like there's lots of publications. I mean, I even had that as a freelance, as a tech journalist, where like a tech publication is like, okay, somebody just said this on Twitter. Can you write about this? But don't mention Twitter. We did our own research on this. And you're like, everybody knows we get, well, not everybody knows apparently, but if you know what's going on, that's and Facebook, which later also banned Trump because they have major Twitter envy, they want to be Twitter, but the Facebook has a problem that Facebook, when it started, was private by default. So posts on Facebook weren't accessible and seeable by the wider world. They later changed that, but because they realized that Twitter's big thing. So Twitter is monumental because of two reasons. And I've been microblogging since the dawn of time. So I've been interested in this shit. I've been watching this a long time. Twitter is interesting for two reasons. It's public by default, and it's very short messages. And that leads people to just, post news and things that might be interesting. And because it's public by default, it is eminently and always quotable by journalists. Right? If you get something out of Facebook, you have to make sure, was this a private group? Do I even have the permission to write about this or to post a screenshot of this? On Twitter, it's fair game. Everything that's on Twitter is fair game because the people who are posting it are doing so with the understanding that it's going to be public. So you can use it in the press. Okay, if you use photos, you have to ask for their rights. I understand that, right? But, if it's news, you can use it. That's why Twitter Twitter is the number one communication platform for the current president of the United States. Well, not anymore, but it was, right? I mean, yes, he gave press conference, but who watches that shit? 90% of the stuff Trump did as PR that ended up in the press came from Twitter. Yes, they need speeches for the sound bites and everything, but that is just the fact, and people need to realize that Twitter is not just a company anymore. Twitter is an enormously influential tool to form public opinion, and the same people who are denying this now because you're a private company, they were the ones that said that the 2016 election was hugely manipulated over Facebook and Twitter with all these magic Twitter bots, right? So they were saying this a few years ago, and now it's not true anymore. I don't get this. So Twitter is really, really important as a medium. It's still a platform from a private company. I completely understand that. But it is a special case. And the President of the United States is a special case. I mean, what you have to realize is if you leave all this partisan bickering and the fact that, yes, they stormed the Capitol and somebody shit on the floor, right. But, the British burnt the whole thing down a few years ago. A few hundred years ago, but from a historian's perspective, it was yesterday. So I mean, the United States, the democracy in the United States was born in fire, and it survived a lot of fire, and it'll survive this. If you, I don't think actually that all of that isn't the newsworthy thing and the important thing that happened here. I mean, I'm colored by my perspective as a tech journalist and as a nerd, but I think the monumental thing that happened last week was that a private company killed the main communication channel and the main public relations channel of the president and of the government of the United States of America. And this is why you see Merkel and the Mexican president and people all over the world saying this is a problem. I wrote on Substack on my newsletter about this. Fab.substack.com, by the way, or you can just go to fab.industries. It's on there. And people were shouting at me, Fab, you are, how can you be on Trump's side? How can you say this? And then it's like Angela Merkel says the same thing. It's like the one time in my life where Angela Merkel actually agree on something. So it's kind of that's the important thing that happened. This is a huge power grab by Silicon Valley. This is basically them exercising this power that I think they wanted for a long time, because it's no secret that, I mean, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, all these companies are opposed to Trump. They're openly opposed to Trump. It's public how much money they gave to the Democrats and to Biden's campaign. Which is, they're right. That's completely their right. But I think they wanted to do this because of that, because of political reasons. And I think what people need to understand is they need to divorce themselves from the partisan issue here. What you need to do is you need to understand that this is establishing a world and a situation that we'll have to deal with from now on. So next time they're going to come for your president or your institution, of course, it's kind of that sells kind of hard, because it's not going to happen to Biden. We all know that. He's, for obvious reasons, he's close with these people, but it's going to happen at some point. At some point, a Republican is going to run some of these companies, and at some point, it might switch. And at some point, they're killing. They're gonna kill some Democrats' president's account or something. And a private company should not have that power, I feel. And you're like, oh, it's their platform. Yes, but it's the president of the United States. He makes the laws. Well, not anymore, but that you could just make a law that you could not kick the president of any social media platform. Bam, done. I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine, like, if you're like a progressive, liberal, left-leaning person, what could happen. But you could think that at some point, so one scenario that I kind of could imagine would be that in a few years, when there's a big focus on environmental protection and saving energy, and when we realize that it's renewable power is nice and well, but maybe we just want to conserve power as well. I mean, you could see a situation where Silicon Valley could get in trouble because they have server farms to the horizon. They use a lot of energy. And you could see a point where, a Democrat government would go, well, we need to tighten the screws here on Silicon Valley. And then Silicon Valley goes, oh, we don't like that, and we'll start ghosting your stuff and disappearing that opinion from social media, and just pretend the public is on our side. I mean, this is something, there's something like that. So, but basically what happened here is that what I see, I see in this whole debacle on Twitter, on Facebook, I see a huge violation of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which I think we talked about before this on the show. This is something I always knew also as safe harbor. Basically, it is a protection that people who run content platforms, so that might be you or me with our Discord server or our forum, or Twitter, that run content platforms that publish content from third parties. And this law says that, obviously it's only in the US, but as we know, the US sets the tone for this kind of thing, especially in technology for the whole world. This kind of, this means that if you do that, and if you just let people write their stuff without checking it, without editorializing, without deleting stuff that, think is, I mean, the exception from this is illegal things, right? The exception from this is actually criminal things. You need to delete those, but also, that's not only deleting, you also need to, report them to the police. You can't just delete them. So there's already, there's another process there in a definition. But leaving that aside, as long as you don't editorialize, you don't check before you put it online, you cannot be sued. And we're talking civil, so this is civil cases here. We're not talking anything illegal, criminal cases. You cannot be sued by people for, let's say, slander. So let's say I run a forum, and somebody on the forum posts a post and says Bill Gates is a fucking asshole and he's dangerous to humanity. Bill Gates can't sue me because I've complied to Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Bill Gates can go and, I mean, he can probably get me to tell him if I know who that user is, and then he can go sue that user. But he cannot sue me. And that is very important. And there's a critical difference between Twitter and the New York Times. If the New York Times writes something, there's somebody editorially responsible and you can sue them for slander or, whatever. If they write an article and it ruins your company and you have billions and billions of losses and you think they didn't do their due diligence and did good reporting, you can sue them and you might win and they will have to pay. A good example, I mean, we have similar laws like this in Germany with newspapers. Similar example in Germany is Jörg Kachelmann, a famous weather guy on TV who was there was a court case. He was alleged to have raped or at least attacked his then girlfriend, I think. And so a German newspaper, Bild, a big tabloid, did stories, basically ruined him. He, obviously can't have a job as a weather guy on TV when you've just been alleged to have raped somebody and you're just now in criminal court. But he got cleared of all charges, and then he went to Bild and sued them and said, you didn't do due diligence. You just said things that weren't true, and he won, and he got a lot of money. And you can't do that to Twitter, right? You can't go, Fab said something, on Twitter, I'm gonna sue you. But this whole thing, this whole Section 230 hinges on the fact that you're not editorializing. At the point where you go and you say, oh, we're putting a message over this tweet because he's lying, or we're deleting his account, right? I mean, and it's obvious that Twitter is editorial and it's obvious that their rules are not fair, right? So Donald Trump posts something and they put, oh, this might not be right because, of course, it's propaganda, right? Angela Merkel, her government posts something that is that's not true, that's been debunked in the press. She doesn't get a notice. Some organizations that, I don't know, promote homeopathy, right? You can't, there's no banner over that saying there's no scientific evidence that this stuff works. It's not fair. And it's editorializing. And I think I don't say this very, I mean, I've agreed with Trump more than Angela Merkel, I think, but I don't say this lightly either. I agree with Trump, and he was attacking Silicon Valley companies for months before this, that he thinks that they should get that this protection under Section 230 should be revoked. And that's dangerous, of course, as well, because you don't want to completely revoke it, because then everybody who runs a forum, basically is open to, lawsuits, and then you won't run forums anymore. But I think for big companies like that, who are basically, they've cornered the market, they're basically monopolies, de facto monopolies. I think he's right. I mean, the Twitter, if you look at it, is about as influential on the political opinion of the country as the New York Times. Probably more. Because the New York Times gets half its stories from stuff posted on Twitter. And it's no secret because they fucking embed the fucking tweets. So why can the Times be sued for slander, but Twitter can? I think he has a point there. I don't think it's obviously not the same, because obviously they can't editorialize everything that gets posted on Twitter. But I think there should be some responsibility. I think if they want to decide, if Twitter as a company wants to take on the burden of having to decide what government can post what on Twitter, then there'll have to be questions. There have to be rules about this, laws. Like this has to be regulated, right? So why can the Saudi government post things on Twitter that I personally would think are a lot more not in line with Twitter's terms of service or democratic values than what Trump posts? Like where there have to be rules about this, which I find sad because I don't want government oversight generally. I don't think governments generally make a mess of this. But I mean, we can't leave it up to these companies, because I mean they're just gonna. I mean, one of the things that happened very shortly after Trump got banned. I don't. If it's connected, who knows? Correlation is not causation, but still, they banned the account of Sci-Hub, which up to that point had 185,000 followers and was running for 9 years. Or as I think this from Torrent Freak, as Torrent Freak writes, Sci-Hub founder Alexandra Elbakian informed us that Twitter has suspended the site's official account, which had over 185k followers and operated without notable issues for 9 years. Elbakian believes that it may be directly related to the legal action in India. Quote, it happened right after Indian scientists revolted against Elsevier and other academic publishers after Sci-Hub posted on Twitter about the danger of being blocked. Thousands of people spoke up against this on Twitter. And in case you don't live with a scientist like me, or you're not a journalist like me, and you have no fucking idea what Sci-Hub is, so a very quick discourse into how science works. If you're a scientist, we're talking mostly, natural sciences here, biology, physics, stuff like that. If you do medicine, if you do research, you want to publish that, and you want, it has to be peer reviewed, and you want many of your peers to read it, so you go to a scientific journal. And there are huge companies with billions and billions of dollars each in revenue. Elsevier is one, Wiley is one, that specialize in this. They run these journals. And now the kicker, as a scientist, you pay this journal to have your research, your work published, right? Well, you ask them, can I please publish this? Then they look it over, and if they think it's good enough, then you get the privilege of paying them. And then you still have to have a subscription to read the stuff, because as a scientist, what you do, this is how peer review works, how the whole process works. If you research, I don't know, let's say I'm a tapeworm researcher and my thing is tapeworms and I'm writing about tapeworms. If I think I've discovered something new, I did an experiment, I discovered something new about tapeworms. What I need to do is I need to read all the literature there is, all the current literature there is about tapeworms, to figure out if somebody else has found this somewhere over the world. Because it happens all the time. It might just be somebody discovered this last year, and then I look like an idiot. So I have to read it. So I have to subscribe to the the Weekly Tapeworm, the International Journal of Tapeworm Scientists. I'm making these up, but you get my point, right? I need to read all these papers. So the way this works, these subscriptions to these publications. Look up what an Elsevier subscription costs. I don't even think they tell you. It's ridiculous. I mean, they make these billions from somewhere, and it's really expensive. So you can't afford that. So as a scientist, you're usually you're part of a university hospital, or you're part of a university, and the university has a subscription. So in Germany, this is even more of a gut punch. I pay for that. Because in Germany, almost all universities are public universities. Education is paid for by the taxpayer. So I'm paying for that. So my wife, who's a scientist, when she was at university, she was employed there, right? And, she got some money off grants and from, companies. And, there's all these kind of third-party grants and all that kind of stuff. But generally, I basically paid her salary. Everybody did in Germany. It comes from tax money. And then if she wants to publish something that she's done, she gets money from the university to pay the journal. So that comes from the taxpayer. And then if she wants to read her own work, she uses the subscription that the university has for the publisher, which I paid for as a taxpayer. And the kicker is that these universities are not even allowed to share these subscriptions. So every fucking public university in Germany is subscribed to every fucking journal. So I pay for this all over again. I have to pay for the science that is being done. I have to pay for that to be published. And then I have to pay to read it, or for the scientists to read it. And if I then, as somebody who, as a taxpayer, paid for all of this, wants to read it, I also need a subscription. So what you do, you go to SciUp. SciUp is kind of like the Pirate Bay for scientific papers. They basically get all the papers that are published everywhere from somebody, chuck it in a database somewhere in the, I don't know, the Philippines or something, and you can just go there and Google it and download it. You put in, like, you go to, you know, say you go to PubMed, you know what the paper is, you get like a reference from PubMed, you put that into SciHub, and you get the paper, right? Which I do as a journalist, because I often did stories on papers which I had to read to do the story. But obviously the place I work for, now I'm freelance, can't pay that. It's like the subscription for one of these papers is more than I make in a year, I think. And so, you know, I can't, you know, the publisher I work for, they obviously can't pay for this. So what do? You go to SciUp, you get the paper. It's basically open access. It's illegal. All of this is illegal. I mean, they can't really, I mean, I don't know where, but as far as I know, in the US, in Germany, in the UK, they can't really go after you for downloading the paper, reading it. But you know, if you'd send one to them to put it up, that would probably be very, very bad. But I know scientists who do this, right? So they often, the subscription you can only access from the university net, but then people work from home, right? Especially right now. And then sometimes you can't, like, the VPN doesn't work, and like there's bureaucracies in universities and these hospitals and shit, and often it's easier to just go to SciUp and quickly get the fucking paper instead of just going on your bike and get to university and, you know, loading it there, or getting their IT to actually get the fucking VPN to work, or email somebody who is currently in the university. You just go to SciUp, right? I know scientists personally who even, like, they published in a paper who their university didn't have a subscription to. They had to go to SciUp to read their own fucking, well, they know their paper, but to see what it looked like in the fucking journal, they had to go to SciUp. So this is a very important website. It keeps science running all over the world, literally. It's hugely important in third world countries, you know, countries where maybe they can't even afford these subscriptions, even though they make them usually more cheaper over there. But, you know, and this is the case after this discourse. This is where we actually came from. This is what Al-Bakian is talking about, because in India currently, I mean, there's always these court cases. The publishers always sue SciHub in the country, and then they shut the service down and they have to block it. Happened in Germany a few times, I think. But this court case in India is very interesting, because the Indian government has just said, yeah, it's illegal. As far as I understand it, they said, yeah, this is probably illegal, but maybe we're just going to have an exception, because it seems this is really important. So they did like this call for voices from the scientific community, where they said, tell us about this, about subscriptions, about SciHub. And then so the assumption is that if people say we need this because our university can't pay the subscription fees because they're way too expensive, because they're priced for the US market and we're in India, we kind of need this, then the Indian government could just go, yeah, this is illegal, but basically you're allowed to do this. Kind of like, you know, in the US, there's this like there's this library exception, right? Where you can basically, you're not allowed to copy a book, right? And to distribute it, but like libraries are allowed to do that. And there's a thing in Germany where, for schools and teachers, if they're in a process of teaching, it would be actionable and illegal to copy a book and distribute it to the teachers. But there's like this thing where like the government basically says, in education, if this is only for educational purposes, nobody can sue you for this, even though it's illegal. So it looks like the Indian government wanted to do something like this, at which point lots of people on Twitter, Indian scientists, were like, yeah, we need SciUp because otherwise we can't do our work. And the Sci-Hub account, which has a lot of followers, was retweeting this, and then they got shut down. And thank you, Mike, a friend of the show, Mike Mullen Jensen. We talked about him earlier. Has just resubscribed on Twitch, and 24 months. So he's been here 2 years. I didn't even know this channel existed for 2 years. So that is pretty amazing. Thank you, Mike. So we've got live support happening of the show here, which is great. I love that. Anyway, so that Sci-Hub is was also banned. So there you can see this is what happens. It's not only going down on Donald Trump. It's going down on, there's publishers, there's advertisers. There are advertisers probably on Twitter, and they went like, you have to take this fucking account down. Otherwise, we're not advertising them. And this is the problem. This is why I don't have advertisers on the show. Now, another thing that happened is that basically these companies, they're not only happy with extending, their kind of power over what, the political discourse is and what people think, basically. They obviously also don't want to lose that. They want to stay where they are, right? And because they want to do that, they don't want any other small upstart companies coming and maybe replacing them because they're less restrictive. And this is what happened to Parler. Now, Parler, I knew what Parler was. I never had an account. I never was really interested. But Parler was an American, founded in the US, microblogging or, social network, kind of like Twitter, built itself kind of like Twitter for free speech. And I think it's called, according to the internet, it's pronounced Parler. As somebody who did French in school, I always want to call it parler. But since it's Americans, we're Parler. I think it's from Nevada. Sorry, Parler, partner. And they got they got completely blasted off the internet, which is an interesting story. But I have to breaking news. I have to interrupt the show because we have live news from the chat where Mike is proposing. He says we have a lot. I talked about earlier on the show that we did like these 2 episodes on the election and everything, and we have a lot to catch up on. He says, why don't we do an episode next Wednesday on Inauguration Day? I didn't know it was Inauguration Day next Wednesday. So let's do that, Mike. You're on the hook. You're on the hook. Yeah, Mike, I've got sound effects now. So and they're licensed sound effects. This podcast is going places. But let's do that next week. You're on the hook now. This sounds good. Well, if something, we'll see. I'll try my best to make that happen. But let's quickly talk about Parler and what happened there. So I'm going to read a little bit from Glenn Greenwald, who I really like, who did a post on this on his Substack, who I think he pretty much nails it, so I can just read it and it's a bit easier for my brain. So he says, critics of Silicon Valley censorship for years heard the same refrain. Tech platforms like Facebook, Google, and Twitter are private corporations and can host or ban whoever they want. If you don't like what they are doing, the solution is not to complain or to regulate them. Instead, go create your own social media platform that operates the way you think it should. The founders of Parler heard that suggestion and tried. In August 2018, they created a social media platform similar to Twitter, but which promised far greater privacy protections, including a refusal to aggregate user data in order to monetize them to advertisers or algorithmically evaluate their interests in order to promote content or products to them. That sounds reasonable. They also promised far greater free speech rights, rejecting the increasingly repressive content policing of Silicon Valley giants. It's obviously Greenwald's opinion here, which I kind of agree with, but it's an opinion. Over the last year, Parler encountered immense success. Millions of people who objected to increasing repression of speech on the largest platforms who had themselves been banned signed up for the new social media company. But today, if you want to download, sign up, or use Parler, you will be unable to do so. That is because three Silicon Valley monopolies, Amazon, Google, and Apple, abruptly united to remove Parler from the internet, exactly at the moment when it became the most downloaded app in the country. If one were looking for evidence to demonstrate that these tech behemoths are in fact monopolies that engage in anti-competitive behavior in violation of antitrust laws and will obliterate any attempt to compete with them in the marketplace, it would be difficult to imagine anything more compelling than how they just used their unconstrained power to utterly destroy a rising competitor. Now, he says they're a monopoly. He actually, in that post, a longer post, link obviously in show notes, Private Citizen Press. Go there, check it out if you want his argument for why they are monopolies. They're not really monopolies, but basically de facto monopolies, and I kind of agree with him. It's I see Mike already has an opinion. Parler was made by the same people behind Cambridge Analytica, so we'll have something to discuss next week, Mike. But so basically what happened is Apple pulled it off the App Store, Google pulled it off the Android Store, and then it was still a website, but then AWS went, we're not having you, and killed the website. And now the problem is, because every hoster in the world uses something on AWS, basically they can't host it. And so they're gone. They're just gone. They're just off the internet. Which that in itself should worry people who are interested in a free internet and a resilient internet against censorship. They'll get back online somewhere, but it's like if you want to run a social network, you need Amazon, it turns out. And yes, they completely fucking destroyed it, wiped it off the internet. Continuing with Greenwald. The day after a united Apple and Google acted against Parler, Amazon delivered the fatal blow. And this is important. Again. Remember, I've never been on Parler. I don't know next to nothing about Parler, and I don't care. Just like before, that it wasn't about Trump. This isn't about Parler. So if you're Mike, hello Mike. If you're Mike, just ignore that this is Parler. Just think any other app. Any app you like. Just imagine a scenario where that would happen. My problem is not the app. My problem is what happened to the app, and that something like this shouldn't happen to anything. It shouldn't be possible. The day after a united Apple and Google acted against Parler, Amazon delivered the fatal blow. The company, founded and run by the world's richest man, Jeff Bezos, used virtually identical language as Apple to inform Parler that its web hosting service, AWS, was terminating Parler's ability to have AWS host its site. Quote, because Parler cannot comply with our terms of service and pose a very real risk to public safety, we plan to suspend Parler's account effective Sunday, January 10th, blah, blah. Because Amazon is such a dominant force in web hosting, Parler has thus far not found a hosting service for its platform, which is why it has disappeared not only from app stores and phones, but also from the internet. On Thursday, Parler was the most popular app in the United States. By Monday, 3 of the 4 Silicon Valley monopolies united to destroy it. After the internet policing site Sleeping Giants flagged several Parler posts that called for violence, which happened on Twitter as well and on Facebook, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, my favorite representative, asked what are at Apple and at Google Play doing about this. Once Apple responded by removing Parler from its App Store, a move that House Democrats just 3 months earlier warned was dangerous antitrust behavior, she praised Apple and then demanded to know, good to see this development from at Apple. At Google Play, what are you going to do about apps being used to organize violence on your platform? Now, the interesting thing about this is, yes, there were people, there's a Gizmodo story with, hacked Parler data, and there were lots of people using Parler were at the Capitol. But as far as I know, none of the people, there's about 70 people have been arrested, had Parler accounts at the point when they were arrested. If you have any other data on this, please let me know. On the top of the of the website is a contact link. There's lots of ways to contact me. I'm looking up at the sky as I say this because the banner is on top of me. Privatecitizen.press, obviously. There's ways to contact me. There's an anonymous whistleblower form which you can use if you want to be anonymous. There's a way to encrypt your message. Please let me know. I'd be interested in actually researching this. But so as far as I can tell, this wasn't being planned on Parler. It was actually being promoted on YouTube and Twitter and a lot on Facebook, I think, in like private Facebook groups. But hey, no, gotta evil Nazi people, gotta kick them off the internet. That's the important thing here. I think Greenwald sums this up nicely at the end of his article when he says, and I should actually have some reverb on this, but I'm gonna spare you that. So Greenwald says, no authoritarians believe they are authoritarians. No matter how repressive are the measures they support, censorship, monopoly power, no-fly lists for American citizens without due process, they tell themselves that those they are silencing and attacking are so evil, are terrorists, that anything done against them is noble and benevolent, not despotic and repressive. That is how American liberals currently think. Well, I don't think all liberals think like that, but, people like AOC, I think, currently think as they fortify the control of Silicon Valley monopolies over our political lives, exemplified by the overnight destruction of a new and popular competitor. So, that's the gist of it, yeah. And I kind of completely agree with this. And it's not about who this happened to. It's about the power these companies have to do this unchecked. And they're not just companies. This is not just any private company. These are running. These are the people that have the. So 100 years ago, you made public opinion, and you basically manipulate is a hard word, but you directed you can direct politics in a way where you can't really tell people what to think, not openly. But if you can decide what they actually see, and if you can present the valid opinions that are to be had, you can steer the whole political discourse of a country or the world. There's an episode in this somewhere. But the way you used to do this 100 years ago was the printing press. It was a huge thing that people, it sounds like Trump now. It was a huge thing. It was amazing. It was great. And it was good. And mine's the biggest. You had the printing press. It was really expensive. Only big publishing companies could have one. And that's what made public opinion. And Twitter, especially Twitter, but to some degree other social networks, and to some degrees, people in the chat on Twitch are mentioning messengers. There is a basic. I have on the docket. I have an episode coming up. Probably I'll have to do. I don't want to, but it's. I think people are interested in it in the WhatsApp thing. They changed the terms of service and Facebook and everything. But those are the printing presses of the modern day. Twitter is where the opinions most people have get presented to the public. And that's one reason why I've been a huge proponent of social networks, of microblogging. Before I was on Twitter, I was on Jaiku. I met a lot of friends there. That's how I started my first podcast. My whole career. I mean, I got my job as a professional journalist because I replied to a job advertisement on Twitter. I love these platforms. I love the ability to talk to people all over the world. But increasingly, I don't see them as a force of good anymore. And, people, I'm a bit late with this. People said this like years ago, and they were like, there were people in my timeline who I was reading a lot who left Twitter, but their reason for it was that the discourse was so bad and that people were so ugly and everything was ugly and people there was so much hate going on. And I was said, I don't see that. I don't see more hate or more opinions than I see in real life. They come out in a different way because people feel freer and they have a bigger audience and it's just a different medium. But I always thought, or I still think, that's just human beings. But what is considering me to actually not really leave, but I'm posting a lot less on Twitter and other social networks these days. Even on the Fediverse, I'm going to do an episode in the future about the Fediverse and how that is not a solution to this. Is I am going completely like everything I want to do on platforms I control. On my personal website, that I like, if the hoster goes, he's canceled, we don't like his opinion, that I can move. On this podcast, which as long as I have my website and as long as I have my RSS feed, which is on Private Citizen or Press, you can listen to that. I can change the hoster. I can move the files around. I'm not beholden to advertisers. That is hugely important to me. And it's... I worry. I worry about the future we headed to. And I don't worry about this because of what politicians are doing. Because politicians will always do these things and companies will always grab power and they're always in a battle for the hearts. They're in the battle for money, but that's also a battle for the hearts of the mind and the minds of the people in the country. That's what branding is, basically. PR. But that doesn't worry me. What worries me is people's reaction to it. And this whole, it's just Trump. Trump's stupid anyway. It's good that he's off Twitter. And the short-sightedness with that. The short-sightedness with like piling onto people in like these cancel culture mobs where you're just like, oh, he did something to women, which is, yes, that is horrible, but like the point is not the point. That what you have to think about is we have institutions, we have the rule of law. In German we call it the Rechtsstaat, law and order. If we lose that, we lose our democracy, and we will lose that if people take that into their own hands and if they have lynch mobs, and they're not actual lynch mobs where you go and kill people. There are lynch mobs where you destroy their careers and you destroy their lives. And these are deeply conflicting things to me as well. Just the recent example to me was Cas Anwar. So people who know me and who follow me on social media, know that I love The Expanse. I've loved The Expanse for a long time, and on the TV show, the character of Alex, which is a very integral character to the show, is played by a actor called Cas Anwar. And whether I like him or not, he's very integral to the show. And in the summer, I actually missed this because I don't know what was going on. I was busy. I just realized this like months later. So he was Me Too'd, as we say, right? There were people on Twitter, women were posting accusations about him, that he had done certain things, forced them to have sex with him, that some of the people were, some of the women were underage. Very, very serious allegations. And at the time this happened, he completely dropped off Twitter. He was one of the most active actors on the show, and the actors engaged with fans a lot. He engaged with fans a lot, which was part of the problem. So the allegations is kind of like that. He just like DM'd girls. I mean, lots of this happened when he wasn't on the Expanse. When he's a voice actor. Was a voice actor in Assassin's Creed, and he used to do this at nerd conventions. Apparently, like, you know, kind of like use the fact that he was famous and, you know, women were swooning over him to like basically get them to have sex with him in like ways that they didn't want, which is obviously horrible and deplorable. And so I wrote a story about The Expanse, and I had to kind of research this. And I'm not one of these journalists who goes, he was just, people said this about him on Twitter. I mean, I went and looked and got an opinion for myself if I think these are credible, because I don't want to be the Bild, and if not for fear of getting sued or not. I don't have any money anyway. I'm a freelance journalist, but just because I take my work seriously, right? I don't want to ruin somebody's life. Not that my article would, but, you know, that's the standard you have to adhere. Without at least, you know, looking into what happened. And, you know, I looked into this stuff and dug into it for a day, and it wasn't pretty. And basically they're all accusations, but these accusations are so many from so many people on so many platforms and corroborated by people that exist, that I know. I've engaged on Twitter because I'm a fan of The Expanse for years, that I'm convinced this happened. Also, the fact that he never really denied it. There was the Expanse team launched an investigation, and he said he's going to comply with the investigations and you know, help out. And that was the last thing he ever said. He had obviously got pulled off the show. And now you don't know what's going to happen for the next episode. That hurts your heart as a fan. But it's so much less important than, you know, if these allegations are true, whatever happened to all these women. This much worse. But the thing is, there is no, like, why is the production company engaged in this? Why is there like an independent investigation? Like, these are criminal matters. They should be investigated by police and dealt with in the courts. And if they can't be, because our laws don't allow that, because there's no evidence, or these people can't possibly have evidence, whatever, you know, there's lots of issues with rape, and, you know, if you don't document that immediately, then you don't have any proof later, and you know, I can see that from both sides. I understand why women don't do that, but I also understand that men later, I mean, it's kind of hard to prove you're innocent. It's a huge quagmire. I don't want to get into that, but like, if that's the problem, we need laws. We don't need cancel culture. We don't need fucking lynch mobs. We don't need people taking this into their own hands and then being applauded by politicians for doing that. No, we need the state. This is what the state's actual responsibility is. I'm somebody who says there's a lot of, the state takes on a lot of responsibilities that it shouldn't. Like, you know, I've criticized countries and governments for pulling a lot of responsibility towards them in this whole pandemic, and, you know, taking responsibility for people's health. We're talking like things that are illegal. The state needs to give people tools to have the police investigate this shit. The state needs to do this, and I kind of feel like this is kind of like in the same league. It's obviously a bit more serious. I feel, you know, people getting maybe raped and stuff is a bit more serious than somebody shitting on the floor of the Capitol, even if that, you know, is a symbol of democracy or whatever. But democracy is still going on. You know, somebody who was raped, their life's never going to be the same again. So, but it's the same thing. It's like, it's companies, it's people taking these things in their own hands where they shouldn't. I don't like that. I want that changed. Anyway, if this wasn't enough for you, this is like 1.5 hours on this bullshit. If you want to read some more long form stuff, I wrote about these things, about the riots and Twitter, and also on Sci-Hub. on my Substack, shameless plug, not that I make any money of that, fabsh.substack.com. Links are in the show notes. And if you're interested in these topics, and by all means, please send me comments. There's a lot of stuff going on in Twitch chat, which I'm, because I'm recording this live and you're listening to this on a podcast, probably I'm not gonna, go in depth on that, but I'm having an eye on that. And please, I encourage everybody to just go to the contact link on privatecitizen.press and just send me some thoughts in email that you have. Except Mike. Mike is not allowed to do that because Mike and me are going to talk about this next week, which is going to be a good show. I feel a good show. And with that, I think it's time to talk about the feedback. I was playing for time there because I couldn't find the button on my, as you probably noticed, on my new setup. Mike's like, I can't write anything in chat right now. I have to save it for the show. Hashtag save it for the show. Just not much feedback. I mean, I took a break for the holidays and everybody else did. So actually, there was some kind of interesting stuff going on in the Discord. We had some really nice discussions there, as we have generally. So if you're interested in that, I think it's on the contact page as well. There's a link to the Discord. Let me see. Is there? There is. There's a link to the Discord. You can also go to. Oh, except it's broke. I just realized. Okay, I want to fix that. You can also go to fab.industry/Discord. It'll explain what Discord is if you don't know. And I've jiggered the Discord servers a bit around. I had one for Fab Industries. That was is the old Six Gun, which Six Gun obviously my old podcast production label, which is currently defunct because I'm doing these shows on my own. But I converted that, and that was the Fab Industry server. And I had a Discord server for patrons that they have exclusive access to. And I've merged these two. Well, basically, I've changed over to the Fab Industries one. So please join that. Everybody can join that. It's just the patrons get special channels, and they get, you can see that they're supporting the show and stuff like that. But there's very interesting discussion going on and a lot of feedback there. I didn't copy and paste stuff out of there. You can. It's better experience if you're there yourself. But I had some nice feedback from Bennett Piata, which I wanted to read out. As I always say, I do appreciate everybody who subscribed to my Patreon. That is kind of like the default way to support the show, and it helps me a little bit. It keeps this going, and it makes it worth my while, which is very very nice of people to do that and very important. And I'm very thankful to all of these people. And Bennett wrote to me. He said, I have successfully defended my master's thesis and work as a software developer now. So I fulfilled my promise and joined your Patreon. I think he said as a student, I can remember this. He said as long as he's a student, he didn't want to do that. Because obvious reasons. If you're a student, you don't have money, and then you have a job and you actually you get money, which I understand. I had never thought that he would actually I'm not saying I thought he wouldn't do it, but I was like, I wasn't counting on it, right? It would have been completely okay if he hadn't done it, but he promised it and he did. So this is great. So he's a patron. He's a patron now, a Patreon supporter, which is awesome, or a producer of the show, if you like. I like listening to you and think what you do is important. Do not take this as support for the private citizen. Okay. But for anything you apply your approach to. Oh, thanks. I started listening halfway through LO, the Linux Outlaws, my old podcast that a lot of people was dear to many people, and I'll won't withdraw my support just because you stop a specific podcast. Well, that's nice. Enjoy your well-deserved holidays and Merry Christmas. This was obviously before Christmas. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. And I must say, this was one thing that just occurred to me today. I look every week. I look to my Patreon list, and because I have to extract like the current Patreon supporters to credit on the show, because as you know, I like to credit people, and so I need to check that. And I was doing that earlier, and I was thinking, wow, this is cool. I was looking through the list, and it's like all these people that have been subscribed for a very long time now. And this podcast has been around for a year, and there are several people who've stuck around, and a lot of people who, most of the people they join and they just stick around, which I think is amazing. And I just wanted to once again say thanks to all of you and tell you how much I appreciate that. And that's it for the feedback for now. Obviously, if you have more, contact me. There's also a link in the feedback section, but also in the header of the website. And with this, it's almost time to end the show. But before we do that, I need to do a little bit of advertising to Country a Podcaster, and then thank everybody. So let's get the advertising out of this. Not really advertising, but I talked about Patreon. Patreon is like this website you can sign up to, and it's like a monthly subscription. And the neat thing about it is that I don't have to do all of this on my own. And hopefully you won't just sign up to just support me. There's lots of people who have Patreon pages now, lots of artists, musicians, and so you can just like allocate a certain amount for yourself that you want to support people. And then you can support, several of their accounts, and you don't have to sign up to every. Everybody has their own thing, and you have to all give everybody your payment data. So this is kind of cool that Patreon takes care of that. That's what it makes it appealing to me, and also it's a subscription. So I have some kind of like I'm a freelancer now. I have to do my own bookkeeping, and I have to see like what can I do, what can I afford to spend time on, and that's like kind of the thing. It's like, okay, that's like this amount of money each month, and I can say, well, that justifies me spending a few hours a month on this podcast. Well, it's more than a few hours, but it's awesome. And I do that. Well, if you don't want to use Patreon, you can use PayPal. Producers@fab.industries is the PayPal address if you just want to do a one-time payment, or you can do, you can do recurrent payments with PayPal if you want, if you just don't want to use Patreon, because some people don't like them, which is fine by me. But everything is entirely optional. Of course, you get this podcast for free. I've specified, I put a contact page on the site because that was just easier, and that has a copyright thing. So I've specified it's under a Creative Commons license as well. Kind of has to be. It's a podcast. Can't really do that under like traditional copyright, because you wouldn't be allowed to copy it, kind of. But yeah, I don't know, with streaming, who knows these things. But now it's specified, and this, I do this on the value for value model, which is something the No Agenda podcast came up with, Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak, and which basically means, I do this for free. You can get it for free, and if you think it's worth something, think about what that is, and then send that to me. And if not, it's okay. And this helps us from not having advertisers and me not being beholden to anybody. Because let's be honest, even if I was employed to do this, it would never happen. No, not with these opinions, and not with this whole cancel culture thing going on these days. So yes, and with that, we need to thank everybody who's been supporting me, and this is a very important and the last part of the show. And it's so important that it has its own jingle. Yes, so I changed this around a bit. I now have a specific section for my... did I delete that? Oh, that's a problem. Okay. Cut. Okay, I need to stop stop the show here and try out where's that gone? What did I do? Why did I delete that off the show notes? That is unhelpful. That is well, I promised you this was gonna fall apart at some point. It just did. Okay, I'll think I'll have to fix that. Yeah, of course I did a git check-in, so I don't really know. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do this on the fly. Helpfully, there's this thing. There's this website, Twitch subscribe. Right, I need a list of my Twitch subscribers, which you can't get off Twitch for some reason, not easily. So we have to do that now. So let's do this on the fly. So there's Mike again. Mike's there. Hello, Mike. Appreciate everybody watching, by the way. That's really cool. I'll be, once the show is finished, I'll be open to talk to all of you. Anyway, so I want to put the section in where I have the Twitch subscribers separate, and I wrote this all down, but I must have deleted it. Must have been like a copy and paste error in the wrong place or anything. And now I have no fucking idea how we wait. I have no fucking idea what I did last and how we can end this. So let me just let me just do some podcasting magic here. Do it in post. Yeah, it's kind of not the idea of the show. Yes. So I changed this around a bit. I now have a specific section for my did I delete that? Section for my okay. I changed this around a bit. I now have a specific section for my wait, I need some water. Drinking sounds. Let's keep doing this. The Rona is getting me. For my Twitch subscribers, which I wanted to list separately, so that's new. But first of all, let's thank Raul Cabezali, who wrote the amazing theme tune to this podcast, and I have to thank Bytemark, who they provide. Speaking of Linux Outlaws, they provide the servers ever since Linux Outlaws days, where I have my audio files. So they make this possible. Otherwise, I would be hemorrhaging money and at some point had to stop this operation. So thanks to Bytemark at bytemark.co.uk. They're a great cloud hoster in the UK. And, well, the co.uk kind of gives it away, doesn't it? And then I'd like to thank, as I said before, the most important people, the people who are subscribed to my Patreon, who are keeping the lights on, who are bringing you this show, and the people who donated via PayPal. So these people are Georges Walther, Niall Donegan, Michael Mullen Jensen, who will be on the show next week, I think, Jonathan M. Hathy, Butterbeans, Dave, Steve Hose, Mark Holland, Shelby Kruver, Vlad, Jackie Plage, 1i11g, Philipp Klostermann, Kai Sears, Jaroslav Lichtblau, IKN, Fadi Mansour, Dirk Didi, Joe Poser, Matt Jelliman, David Potter, Mika, Martin, Dave Amrish, Michael Small, SJ, Ricky M, Drive Zero, the amazingly named Larry Glock. Hey Larry, can I get a freebie? I love Glocks. Bennett Piata, who we had that nice email from, Mr. Amish, Jonathan Edwards, Barry Williams, Avis, Neil, and Captain Egghead. And apparently Green Turtle 69 in Twitch is on the list, but we won't say who it is. Speaking of Twitch, I stream these things regularly. I wish, he says, regularly. Mike's having fun with emojis as well. I stream these regularly on Twitch, so I record these live and stream that on Twitch. And you can subscribe to the Twitch channel, which if you're on Twitch, if you have Amazon Prime, you also have, what's it called? It used to be Twitch Prime. I think it's called Amazon Gaming now. Anyway, you have one free subscription that you don't pay for, but that you can give a channel. And that actually, you can do that. And that gives me money. So I would like to now mention all my Twitch subscribers, which, Mike, get ready with the emojis. You can do it again. Mike the Dane, Indie Gamiacs, Andy Pants with a 4, and Jason Word with a 3. Let's the lead speak. And I have to do some live editing because on my show notes it says Mike the Dan, but it's actually Mike the Dane because Mike's, well, he's in Ireland, but originally from Denmark. And that's it. That's it for me today. The first show of the New Year's in the bag. I really enjoyed it. I'm happy to be back here. I thank you all for listening. I think this was great. And I'll see you again next week. Maybe it'll be, I've got so many topics. If I got time, which that's currently the problem because I'm working a lot. But, there might be a special episode at some point. I'm not promising. I'm probably, if everything goes according to plan, we'll see you next week. That inauguration day. I'm going to look this up now because if Mike's wrong, we're going to be completely... that's Wednesday. Yeah, that's next week. Wednesday. Yeah, I'll see you on Wednesday, the 20th January. The inauguration of Joe Biden. Gonna have a lot of fun. So now, new thing here. I'm gonna play us out with some music, which I've licensed. So don't try to sue me. I've got a license for this. So I picked a song from Bo the Drifter. It's called Tennessee Railroad Blues. I know I have listeners from Tennessee. And even more listeners from the South, not the South in England, but the South in the US. This goes out to all of you. See you next week. And I played the wrong song, but we'll just, we can fix that in post. That's pretty easy. Here comes the right song.
Engineer, where are you headed? Carry me back to Tennessee. Oh, I got a little girl who's been waiting. Promised that she'd marry me. Mr. Can we leave this seat? I'll shovel coal, Lord, to pay my fare. Gotta get this train down to the station. My little girl waiting for me. Well, the night is dark and Lord, it's cloudy. I've been traveling that lonesome road. My one true love waiting there to see. Want that low train to carry me back? And they left Columbus around 7. Oh Lord, they hit Louisville about 9. And poor boy's heart started overheating, sending all of his love on down. For the night is dark and Lord is quiet. I've been traveling this lonesome road. My one true love waiting there to see. Well, that long old train Won't you carry me home? Oh.
Nice. I love to play music at the end of my podcast again. This is awesome. Wait, stop recording here, right? Super. To answer your question, will I have to listen to the whole thing back in order to edit it? No. There used to be a time when I did this. And I also edited a lot more. But we're doing this live to tape. I listened to a monitor feed the whole time, so I know where there were things. And I'll do that now. So if you guys want to stick around, I'll keep an eye on chat, and I'll show you how I'll fix this whole thing up, and finish the production of this, and then get it out the door. So the first thing we need to do is find. We can do this. We can do this here. So here's obviously where I made a mistake. See you next week. See you next week. See you next week. Well, I don't really need to do this like the same on all tracks. There's really no point there. I mean, this is nothing we need anyway. We can delete that. And we delete that. And then we do this. Probably go here and delete this fucker too. Come on. There you go. Live audio editing. Hindenburg Journalist Pro. Did you write this program? No, it's a professional podcast editing software that actually costs money. And it's made by some guy in Denmark. So we don't usually make long episodes. No, totally not, Mike. So it's made by some guy in Denmark. He named it Hindenburg, not after the German Reichskanzler, but after the exploding airship, I think. Which, I mean, whatever you name that after, it's like this. I mean, it's kind of not the best PR thing, but hey. It works. I've settled on this because it's pretty much the best
South in England, but
this.
you know, the South in England, but you know, the South in the US.
This goes out to all of you. See you next week. See you next week.
Engineer, where are you
headed? Where are you headed? It's always important to leave a little bit of dead air at the end of the show. I always like that. So, like, if you have a playlist, so the next podcast doesn't start like right immediately. Did you get uncomfortable listening to your own voice? No. I've been doing this since 2006. I was doing Linux Outlaws for 7 years, which means a show a week, 7 years. And I was listening to the whole show. I was doing 8 hours of editing at least on every episode back then. So no. This is something everybody has. I think I had it in the beginning as well. If you do it this much, you just forget. At some point, you'll get used to it. You get used to it very... It's actually a way where, so that thing that you're talking about is how your voice sounds different in the reality than it sounds to yourself, because you hear like the inside. I think it's technically because, or more. Yes, it's 12 hours on some episodes. I was a student. I had time. Oh, you'll lose it as well, Mike. It's just if you do more podcasting, you'll do it. So it's like this. The difference is, I think, technically how your voice sounds when the inside of your head vibrates with it. That's how you think your voice sounds, and then the microphone. That's how your voice sounds in reality. But it merges. So my brain just compensates. It's like being short-sighted or something. You know, your eyes, your brain compensates. You don't even realize at some point that you can't see as well. And that's the same thing. It's just like my voice in my head is now a conglomeration of what it sounds. So it's just I wonder why podcasters work so hard to remove the ums and stuff. I've never cared, and like the naturalism. See, yeah, I think it's an attitude. I used to think you needed to do that, and I did it. Like that's what I did with LO. Like I could tell after like a year, I could see in the waveform in Audacity what an of me or Dan looked like. I knew what the word basically, because I say basically a lot and I cut that out. I knew what that looked like in the waveform. I could spot it ahead. Like I was listening to the show and I was like, that we got a basically coming up. Yeah, there it is. Pause. Cut it out. No, I'm not doing that. I need to get work done these days. And now you have a podcast that's more natural. So if you like that, that's great. If you don't, you're stuck with it. So now we need to glue this back together. Put the marker where it's supposed to be. Yes, so I... See if this sounds natural. Yes, so I changed this around a bit. I now have a specific section for my Twitch subscribers, which I wanted to list separately. You can cut that without that. Also, we can cut this. That's what I'm trying to say. See, when you talk for an hour and a half, sometimes your brain deserts you. I think the ums and ahs are something that great radio podcast people are able to reduce as they speak, and that makes it more pleasant without making it unnatural. It's a skill, and I don't like heavily edited podcasts either. Something weird about it. Shows you are either very intelligent guys, since you are rarely at a loss for words. You can keep long and complex thoughts. Well, yes, but I also have to be careful. My family has this thing. My mother has it. My grandmother has it. That we just talk sentences, and then I switch to another sentence and never finish the other one. And I'm on sentence like 8. I'm like 8 levels deep, and nobody understands what the fuck I'm talking about. So I have to stop there. The thing you're referring to, Mike, is generally no. It's a skill that. It's different in radio, because what you're talking about is not having the ums and ahs. Is basically radio is scripted. You don't realize this, but I actually did a course at some point to get rid of. Well, it wasn't really to get rid of my ums and ahs, because that's really what I learned. But I wanted to learn how to do dubs of videos. And that's just you write a script and you read that. And then there's a certain way of reading that, which you can learn, that sounds just like natural speaking, that the listener doesn't realize that this is actually scripted. And if you do it well, you write it yourself. You write it yourself in your own words. So as if you would be talking, and then people don't realize that it's scripted. And then you have the ums and ahs. It is, you can try to get rid of these, but you will do one thing or another. Especially if you see if I try to get rid of, it's actually if I concentrate a lot, I can kind of do that, and then I just substitute with pauses. Instead of doing an R there, I just did a pause, and I can concentrate to do that. But I realized that it goes. I'm actually not that intelligent, so it kind of goes to the detriment of what I'm trying to say, and that's more important to me, to think about that instead of thinking about sounding good. So I've just given up on it. I also have the edit, Mike has the same thing. If you're doing this kind of thing in a language that is not your mother language, like your language you were born with, your Muttersprache, then it's a lot harder as well, because you're also constantly like looking for words, and it's hard. I mean, I'm just glad I can do this in English in a way that you people can understand. That, for me, that's already golden. I know Reply All of Gimlet Media does this, one of my favorite podcasts, and I never forget how they scripted it, as they sound so real. Yeah, the laws seem genuine. Well, they are genuine. They just, you can write a script and then generally laugh. But the company won't release scripts and consider it their secret sauce. Modder small. It's Danish. It's probably modern. It's like leave all the vowels out. Motion. Listen to BBC 5 live, and they have a lot of great presenters, and they do call-ins as well. So they can't do scripted. Also, sports commentators, big respect. Yes, but Mike, we did this course with a radio person, with a radio from German, basically equivalent of the BBC, German Public Radio. And I learned a lot of things that are actually scripted. They do call-ins scripted. They do call-ins where they do a call-in with a person and then they exchange. I mean, they do also live call-ins, but a lot of live call-ins aren't live, where they just basically they talk to the person and then basically clean up what they said, write a script, read that, and it's not like script writing. What you do is you write it down and you read it once, and when you do this training, you get really good at it, and I was good at it for a while. I just haven't practiced it enough. They do more as more. More as more. Muttersprache. You can do it really quick. Like you just need one go. You need one read. Like you write it down very quickly in one read. It takes like 3 times. It makes everything take 3 times longer, which is it's just 3 times. It's not actually that much. Sports, yes, but they also have special. I mean, you start noticing these kind of things. How many pauses they do in sports commentary if it's just one guy. And that's why, in the US, obviously, they have a color commentator all the time, because if you do it with 2 people, it's a lot easier. Like, it's the same with the podcast. If you do that with 2 people, it's a lot easier to not do the ums and ahs. Talking an hour and a half without, I'm trying to make this sound as much as radio as in there's no dead air, which I consider that's bad. I consider that bad also for a podcast. That's already really hard. It wasn't half bad, actually. They usually have 2 people, they ping pong off each other. Yeah, so, that's easier if you do it like in 30-second intervals, and the next guy you take a break and you can kind of relax your brain. It's really hard if you do it for 2 hours on your own. Okay, what were we doing? Section for my Twitch subscribers. You can kind of hear that I was like, that this is fake. So now the fun thing is here that you will realize that this is fake because you've heard it. And there's an interesting effect. Oh God, I did the wrong thing with the moving the things. Yeah, I pulled it apart again. Oh God. Still getting used to this software sometimes. What am I looking for? How does this work again? There's like these. Is it alt click? No. Yes, this is that, right? It's shift click. And then no, it's not. Shouldn't that select everything? Was it control shift click? What the alt shift? God, I have to look this up now. Select all tracks, left, right, of course. Shortcut search? No. Is it? Yeah, probably in there. Copy, manual, split, blah, 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 double, fades, crossfade, multi-track fade. Select all regions from the current region to the last. Select all regions from the current region. No. Shift click region. God, I didn't do this long enough, so I forgot everything. Select multiple regions for editing. God, holy crap. Select. I got this way too much. Select. select to end, shift, where? No, from the country to the last region, is that? Was that shift and? No, that's not what we want. No. Select to end on all tracks. Control Alt, click region. Control Alt. Okay, and that's what we wanted. Right, because if we do that, right, first we need to do this again. See you next week. Nope. Stop. To all of you, see you next week. Okay, so what we want to do now is, what was this again? Control Alt click. So now it selects everything, and then we can do this. And then everything right of the cursor moves with it. Section for my Twitch subscribers. Okay, so specific section for my Twitch subscribers. Yeah, it's not perfect, but like you think that this sounds fake because you know it's fake. There's an interesting phenomenon that if you're just listening to the podcast, you probably won't spot it. Section for my Twitch subscribers, which I wanted to list separately. There's got to be a GUI way to do this. Yeah, but this is Hindenburg Journalist Pro. It's written by a Dane. It's a DAW. They have lots of shit like this where there's always a click shit and no GUI way. Interestingly, that Gamer J thinks that we're letting politics get in the way of our love for one another. This is definitely not happening. It's not what's going on. Never had that happen. Private citizen. Okay. Sound effects. Yay. Yes. Okay. Are there any other markers? I think I noticed yes, at some point, is it here? I burped, which I want to fix if I can. Power over what, the political discourse is and what people think, basically. They obviously also don't want to lose that. Discourse is and what people maybe it was before that. Extending, their kind of power over what, the political discourse is and what people think, basically. They obviously also don't want to lose that. They want to stay where they are, right? And maybe I just think because is that basically these companies, they're not only happy with extending, their kind of power over what, the political discourse is and what people think, basically. They obviously also don't want to lose that. I think that was nearly not, you couldn't hear that. I suppressed that nicely. This UI is refreshingly diegetic instead of skeuomorphic compared to most digital audio workstations, says super user. You don't have to try reading those words out. Yes, I have to study English. If you like skeuomorphic, have a look at the effects plugin I'm running over this. I love this UI. I actually like skeuomorphic UI. I actually think some of the VST plugins have like the best designed UIs I've ever seen. I'd love my desktop to look like this. It's like 80s knobs everywhere. I love it. Yeah, ye gods. So skeuomorphic design is when you it's like Apple used to do, and then they kind of outlawed it. It's kind of when you try to make digital interfaces look like analog. When your button actually looks like a button, or when your notepad in your iOS app looked like an actual pad, like with lines on it. And I guess diegetic is the that is just like What does that mean? That's like Greek. It means like in itself. In gaming, that's like when you can't tell the UI from the rest in the game. Yeah, both has its places. This UI is I think it's just refreshingly simple. It doesn't have many buttons. The downside is it does everything with like key presses that you immediately, or like you have to drag somewhere, and I forget that all the time. But luckily I don't have to do much with it. The downside is I haven't found a way where I can move the tracks and the markers move with it. So the markers, when I do some editing, the markers always change things. We have a try. Let's have a try. So this is what Trump posted to Twitter in a video message.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt.
By the way, do you hear the very subtle? Probably not coming through on. Oh, it's not doing it now because there was no. Like, there's a very subtle effect I put on this.
We have to have law and order. We have to.
If you heard it before, I apologize. But do it again. Get over to the thing we actually want to talk about. So we've established what's going on. We established that I'm not a fan of what happened. Basically, responded how the social media companies and Silicon Valley basically responded to this. Which is, the interesting thing, because this is completely wrong. We do not need a better save icon than a floppy disk. A floppy disk, the perfect save item. Everybody of us who's old enough remembers what it is, and everybody fucking else better learn what the fucking floppy disk is, because they were amazing and I missed them. Right? They were shit, but I still miss them. I miss them. Which is, the interesting thing, because this is. Yeah, it's not coming through. I imagine most people on a walk won't. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I personally listen to podcasts on a walk, or if playing really mindless video games. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be. So this is, I put a little bit of ambience in there that is supposed to be, if you listen to it on really good stereo system or headphones, you might notice it, but the idea is that it just gives you a warm and fuzzy feeling without you noticing it. And it's specifically done, and the rest of the podcast specifically mixed so you can listen to it while you're on a run or in your bike or I listen to podcasts in a car a lot, on a shitty car audio system, so I try to mix them so that they work, and I actually do tests. So I also improved the podcast audio a little bit over the break. Hopefully. Savvy, get it? Existing. Okay, why are these on? Anyway. Okay, that looks good. I think that's that marker, and I'll have to remove the markers anyway. What am I doing? I need to finish the edit first, because I need to cut some stuff off the front. I'm an idiot. Fab, you're an idiot. You are an idiot. Okay, that looks more usable. Right. Righty. No. It doesn't matter where. Come on. Don't let perfect be the enemy. Oh, well. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Yeah, well, too late. She should have told me that when I was born. Isn't that the front of the track? Okay. I was going to say, why doesn't that clip to that? Okay. Yep. But you're our idiot. Yeah, I am. I'm like the reference idiot. Hopefully I'm an interesting idiot. Just like you're our witch. Hello everybody, you're listening to The Private Citizen, episode 51 for Wednesday the 13th of January 2021. The Twitter coup. It's like when they rescue River in Firefly and like, we're gonna have her, and then the magistrate guy's like, but she's a witch, and Mel just goes, yeah, but she's as I said I was gonna do. I worked over it over this and over over the holidays in December a little bit. Yeah, that sounds good. Now I have to just move the markers again and see that I actually have all chapters, because I have a feeling I forgot. But okay. Probably didn't do a marker for that. To look at legal stuff, and I like to look at. No, this is just like intro. No, yeah, I didn't. Yeah, it's supposed to be here. It's good. That's good. With a with a little bit of distance, but yes, we're talking about breaking news. I love that. It's so good. And those breaking news, of course, you must have read. Right. Okay. So we have. Wait. Why don't I do this immediately? View chapters. Oh, no chapters defined. Isn't it markers? Did I do this wrong? Is it? Well, I can. No. Wait. No. Jesus Christ. Add chapter, maybe. Delete. First marker. So you've got nice chapters in your podcast. Oh God, I need to change the album art as well. The very epic news channel, breaking news. Exactly. Why is this so big? Why are you so big? Because otherwise you can't. Oh God, it's even like on the screen permanently. Christ. Okay, let's put it here. Let's put it here for now. Okay. Which is, the interesting thing, because this is where it starts to intersect privacy. So this was going on. While this was going on, Twitter, who for a long time... no! Oh, God. Oh, God, didn't want to dock the window there. Don't do that to me. For fuck's sake. Come on. Add chapter 2. The social networks respond. Yes. Where's the next marker? Okay, that was a long section. And it's so important that it has its own jingle. Why do I need 4 web browsers? I don't need 4 web browsers. I am a journalist. And I write about things, including web browsers, and I like to stay on top of everything. So, some privacy features and stuff, evaluating. And it's handy if you do some web development, which I just recently did. And then, it's just handy to have every browser and to see how it screws up your shitty CSS that you wrote, because you're an idiot. You're an idiot. God, what has Mike posted? Why can't I copy this link? Well, that's not helpful. What the fuck? Yeah, see, and then you get this shit. Okay. No, I don't want to open. Let's open the Firefox. I hope he's not rickrolling me. Why can't I have 2 terms and 1 impeachment? The impeachment thing is just silly. I mean, it's going to take longer to compile that document than he's still in office. I know that it's just a thing where it's just like, in case he doesn't leave office. Action. Come on. For my Twitch subscribers, see, now it already sounds normal. Why do you keep docking, you shitty window? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? That's everything? Yeah, that's everything. Feedback. Oh, we only have 3 chapters. Yeah, that is everything. So now we have the chapters. I think now we have everything. Well, I need to change some things with the tagging because we have new album art and we have a new year. So I think I need to edit the podcast. God. Where is it? Private citizens. And now people will be analyzing my file structure and it's like, that's where his porn folder is. 51. The Twitter Coup. Le Coup de Twitter. Year 2021. Copyright 2020 to 2021. Everything else, I think, stays the same. So much porno. Hardened Firefox probably best for a private citizen. That was one of my 2020 projects and is finally complete. Oh, I mean, is that like do it yourself? You hack basically heavily customized Firefox, look upghacks user.js. That sounds cool. That sounds like something I should look into when I have the time. Okay. Minus 16 loves. That is still, yes. Oh, we've changed a lot of things that we need to look up in our RSS feed to get it right, not get it wrong. Because we want the same data in this than we have in our RSS feed, I feel that is important. Oh, ring! Hello, Windows. That's the shittiest sound in Windows. Everything else, I think, is the same. Yeah, well, with the porno, I live in fear that I ever do like a Leo Laporte and show the sex swing I bought live on air or people's genitalia. I try to avoid that. Okay, I think we need to close this. This is the thing we learned. Well, let's save that first. And then, oh God, I only have an hour to get this all done. See, somebody knows totaldrama.net. Okay, publish. Now we get the silly message. This thing also generates an RSS feed, which is silly. I mean, that's what my website does for me. But no, I don't know. And now we're rendering this whole thing in real time, basically. Which, can't click on that then. That site is entertaining. It is totaldrama.net is entertaining for somebody not in the know. People who watch Twitch or watched Twitch in the past. It's like the site just compiles like all rumors and also like screen caps of actual things that happened in Twitch studios, which are weird. It's a wonder that Leo didn't get cancelled yet. At least we know that you're using hard Firefox for that kind of business. Yes, I use hard. We use hard Firefox. Hardened. That's why our Firefox is hardened. Why is this taking so long? Oh God. Guys, this is just rendering the podcast now. I'm gonna put on some music and the wait screen and I'll use that time to make myself another cup of tea and then I'll be back and we'll finish this podcast. I think that's a decent plan. Oh look, apparently I caught a virus. I'll have to check that out later. What the hell is Windows up to? No, that's not what I want. What is that? Okay. So I'll be back in just a short time while my computer gets taken over by viruses and tries to render this podcast. See you in a bit. right, everybody, I'm back. I am back. And I got a tea, and I checked the malware. It's nothing to worry about. It's just some malware that one of my Heise email addresses caught, and that comes a lot. Because I used to be at Heise Security, and, mail servers sometimes are a bit lax for reasons. And, hey, super. Thanks for being around. Have a good night. And, yeah, thanks for the luck with the podcast release. We're still rendering the podcast. That is still going. Oh, I just realized also my Twitch transitions. I played around with that, and I changed it the other day to something I don't want. Let me just see. Yeah, this is my other. This is the what? Oh, what? What? Why is it different on every? Can you set that for every scene? Wait, sorry for. Screwing with you here. Why does it work on everything? No, it works. What are you doing there? Why doesn't it work on that? That's weird. Okay, I'll have to fix that. Sorry about that. Is that scene related? Is that like a scene property? Anyway, let's keep finishing this podcast. What we can do in the meantime is I do like this teaser image for social media. That's not really it's not really on the website, but it like gets embedded in Twitter or something, and we need to do that. So we need to upload some porn from my personal porn folder. So I think we're going to use the Viking for this one. Oh no, we can't. Shit. It needs to have a specific aspect ratio, otherwise it's going to drive me insane. Okay. No, I don't want you. I want to delete you. How do I delete you? There. Okay. Thank you. He's like, I'm being deleted. Okay. Why is GIMP doing that? Downloads. Hello. Viking. So, yeah, open you. God. So how big is this usually? That is the question we are asking ourselves. I mean, we can check with it. Image 2020 cover episode 50 ping 1200. Come on, 1200 by 675. 1200 by 675. Is this actually 16 by 9? No, of course it's not. 1200 by 679. Crop scale 1200 by 679. Right. Now we can export, or we can overwrite the fucker. Burp. Nope. And now we can do that. Oh. Also, it's always a PNG. Because I like PNGs. Don't ask why I don't use JPEGs. I like PNGs. Export as PNG. Ping. One ping only, Wassily. One ping only. To have some fitting.
Yeah, it's a great time to be a podcaster.
It is. It is a great time to be a podcaster. Upload. Okay, I haven't used this one this show.
I aim to misbehave.
And also always important.
You know, there are some words I've known since I was a
Oh,
schoolboy.
fuck. Wrong button.
But the first
that
link
wasn't
the
it.
chain is forged. The first speech censored, the first thought forbidden, the first freedom denied, chains us all irrevocably. Those words were uttered by Judge Aaron Satie as wisdom and warning. The first time any man's freedom is trodden on, we're all damaged.
You know, there were some words I knew since I was a schoolboy. Fuck, wrong button. What do we want to do? Pop art? Subtle dot, comic dot. Matrix. I don't know, colors in there, that's kind of cool, but I feel like circular dot pattern is the way to go for this one. And my mouse wheel is just spazzing all over the place. Okay, let's go with that. Save file. Okay, it's Firefox. See, the downside with so many browsers is like they download everything to everywhere, and then you're like, what the fuck? Okay. Copy. Go to our site. Private citizen, static image 2021. So we have 2020 and then a cover subfolder. So I need a cover subfolder. Cover. And how are these named? Episode number dot ping. Episode 51. Yeah. Stop complaining, Hugo. Stop complaining. Why is this thing taking so long to render? That's really weird. So we're at IMG 2021 cover episode 51 PNG. Yeah, looks good. Okay, got that sorted out. Also, basically, we have to do that twice. That's annoying. Well, the rendering. Right, let's fix this. But above all, like following people. I would also like thank Twitch. Oh God, Mike the Dane. Mike the Dane. Indie Gamiacs. Andy Pants. And Jason Word. Yes, sorry, you were away there for a while. Oh, I called your name. Now I'm just putting your name in here. Don't tell me you were getting a drink, Mike. I'll be jealous. I'm on dry January. It's been a long road. Getting from there to here. It's been a long time. But your time is finally near. Mike the Dane. Mike the Dane. Does that work? I really don't like that. What I wrote there. Weekend all bets are off. That's good. Yeah, I'm doing spontaneously dry January because Katie is not eating sweets. And I wanted to do something as moral support. And that was it. And I'm slowly starting to regret it. This is dumb. I like that better. Okay. Right, YouTube. We don't have a YouTube address yet because the stream isn't finished, so it's not uploaded to YouTube. Oh, something was broken, right? Something was broken on the... I noticed that during the show. Is this finished? Yes. Upload completed. Well, we haven't really uploaded it, but okay. We're also exporting this. Where do we export this to? Recordings. No, we're flagging it, aren't we? Yeah, so I'm also rendering one out as a flag, lossless, in case I ever want to re-encode at a higher bit rate. As another parent texted to me, I can do dry January or homeschooling, but I can't do both. That is so true, isn't it? That is, I commiserate. Kids are currently getting remote learning and homeschooling due to the COVID restrictions, so mommy and daddy are ready for the bottle when Friday evening arrives. I'd be ready to the bottle each evening. I'd be like putting the kids to bed with the whiskey bottle in my hand. Right, what was broken? The contact thing, right? The link to the Discord server. Because this link's to... Wait, what? Wait, am I in layouts? Oh, why am I looking in the theme? It needs to be here. Mail to, that's the right address. That is right. Discord server. https://industries/discord. It's currently broken on the live side as well. No, we're screwed. A Discord server. So I links to the page with Discord server. By the way, Mike, when do you wanna do things? On next week? Just don't. Well, just send. Tell me offline. You laugh, but I would be putting the kids to bed with a whiskey bottle in my hand. You know me. Okay, so that's good. This is good. Everything else we have, we need to upload the file. YouTube video we don't have yet. So I'm going to upload that with a dead link for now. Bloop, 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 further reading. Yeah, looks like so far so good. Yeah, I just can't upload this now because as far as I can see, the inauguration day proceedings start at 5:30 p.m. CET, swearing in at 6 p.m. Do you want to do a live? Should we do a live comment? That would be a new thing for this podcast. There he goes. Let's have a bet. Can Biden say 2 sentences without completely going off the rails? Can he pronounce electoral college correctly this time? You'd love doing that. Okay, cool. You'll negotiate with parents and the parents with the family, and let me know. I'll be up for all shenanigans. So for everybody who wants to check this out next week, go to fabindustries/stream. Go to this lovely site with the slowly loading image for some reason, and then I'll put it here as soon as we know, or I'll put it there anyway and then update it. Are you bringing like some champagne or something? because Jesus is getting elected to office. The angels will descend from the heavens as Joe Biden as the crown gets lowered on Joe Biden's head. Ah, come on. I feel like I should be listening to some music. This is boring. And I mean, we can do that now. We can do that now, so why not? Let's have a rave. Raves are illegal now, I hear. I think I can probably find something suitable. Well, it's still dry January, so I can't join you. You can probably rename that other file and upload it. Meanwhile, in the meantime, Eddie Murphy. Yeah, it's very Eddie Murphy 80s, isn't it? I miss the 80s. I wasn't really conscious during the 80s, but pause Eddie Murphy here for a second because we need to just check something quickly. New album art. I love the slight jitter that's in there. It's so cool. From the retro color. It was a great time. Were you born in 69, Green Turtle 69? Or is that another reference? Hello everybody, you're listening to The Private Citizen, episode 51 for Wednesday the 13th of January 2021, barely. The Twitter coup. Born in 69? Wow, cool. Hello everybody, my name is Fab and I'm coming to you live from the city of Düsseldorf on the Rhine in Germany with another episode of The Private Citizen, the first one for the new year. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you all slid into the year well, as we say in Germany. Thing here, I'm going to play us out with some music, which I've licensed. So don't try to sue me. I've got a license for this. So I picked a song from Bo the Drifter. It's called Tennessee Railroad Blues. I know I have listeners from Tennessee, and even more listeners from the South. Not the South in England, but the South in the US. This goes out to all of you. See you next week.
Engineer, where are you headed? Carry me back to Tennessee. Oh, I got a little girl who's been waiting. Promised waiting there to see me. Oh, that long old train, won't you carry me? Oh, train, 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 won't you carry me home? Oh.
All right. Okay. That kind of worked. That's still going on. Okay. Eddie is back. That on the other screen. This is just basic OPSEC. Don't want to spill any beans here. Any trade secrets. Oh god. Push the wrong button again. Why are these still armed? That shouldn't be happening. Okay, we're done with Hindenburg. SSH into the server. Yeah, I got the tunes. I got a Epidemic Sound subscription now, so I now have music I can play without getting sued. And it's licensed for Twitch. I can upload it to YouTube, and I can put music on the podcast. And it includes sound effects, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty happy about that. So I'm kind of celebrating that a bit. I'm nearly done here, by the way. Just need to do some things off screen here again. Moving the file in the right position. Readable to the world. Oh. Shit. Forgot something. I need to see how big it is. How big? Here we go. And then we put that in here. Copy this fucker. File size, not. Right. Okay. I think we're pretty much done now. So I've uploaded the file. It's in the right location and should be publicly readable. So. sounds good. Just seeing that it's the right file. Hello everybody, you're listening to The Private Citizen, episode 51. Yep, that looks good. So everything is fine. So we can go. Okay, this is something else. Fixed link. Is that the right file? Yeah, fixed link. Okay. Up the version number by 1. Stage all. Published episode 51. Commit. Push. At which point we can kill Hugo. Pushing. Push. Okay. And now we just need Netlify to build, to make the Hugo build and build my website, and then we are live. We are live from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is the main event of the evening. Come on. Hurry the F up. Hurry. Still building it, isn't it? As we say in German, Rödel. I should have kept the music on. This is boring. Rödel. I did push this. Yeah, I did. There's a lot of pushing going on. Okay. There we are. We're live. First episode of the year. It's on the website. And with that, should obviously be in the RSS feed. Yeah, there it is. Here we go. That's it. That's how you produce a podcast. That was a complete podcast from the beginning to the end. I like to do these complete once in a while. I think it's cool. I learned a lot in the past from videos like this, and I want other people who want to produce podcasts to be able to see how other people do it. So maybe this helps you. And yeah, that's it. I think that's it for me as far as Twitch streams are concerned this week. I have a lot of work to do, and then we're getting